Hi guys, it's Alex McCann here from Altrincham HQ, the Manchester-based social media company, and we're here for the Social Conversation, the show where we talk about what has stood out on social media in the past 7 days. And we've got some fantastic guests today, so we're going to introduce each of them in turn. We're going to start with Jonny from Oxford Road Cafe. Introduce yourself, Jonny.
Hi there, I'm from Oxford Road Cafe. I've been here for about 10 years. We started in a small unit across the road, which was actually on Oxford Road, with about 16 seats, and eventually moved over the road to our current site. Sorry about the plug in the background, but it's accounting week, hence me being here. We do fresh food. We are well known for our breakfast, but wanting to please everyone all of the time, we have probably the largest menu on the planet, as my chefs and staff tell me. I'm a serious cog in the machine, I suppose. But yeah, we do fresh food, lunch, breakfast, and we've just diversified into doing our diner. We were planning on doing it, but it's been hothoused, I guess, by the COVID, where we serve, I think we're the only place that serves Wagyu or British Wagyu meat. And that's been my kind of latest life-absorbing venture. But we do sort of vegan, gluten-free, bit of everything.
Fantastic. And we've got two foodie businesses on today. So we've got Kate Mosley from The Garden. Introduce yourself, Kate.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Kate. I co-own The Garden in Hale. We are a health food eatery, but we kind of our menu is like kind of flips the regular restaurant on its head by having a plant-based menu with the option to add meat or fish or dairy, as opposed to, them being the option rather than the raw kind of thing. So, yeah, that's it.
I bet at both Jonny's places and Kate places. And if we've all ate too much, we've then got Alex from Hale Karate Club to work it all off. So tell us a bit about Hale Karate Club, Alex.
So I now own Hale Karate Club. It's been operating for about 8 years now. I've been teaching full-time since I was 18, so for the past 3 years. I myself am a British and world champion, so just sort of trying to spread my knowledge now for all ages and abilities.
Fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to what we're talking about today. We introduced lots of local businesses on here. So last week, as you saw, we had Josh from the Con Club, we had Mark from Tat and Perk, and Nina from Nina D Illustrations. And what I've always found is, if you are watching this, your likes, comments and shares really do matter. It really helps support the businesses that are on here. So we talk about what news has just come in and just some talking points I'm going to rattle off. So we've had, this week I've noticed Roy Keane joined Instagram, which is probably the most unlikely person to ever be on Instagram ever, because he's the most angry person in the world. He'd much more suit Twitter and ranting and so on. We've had Meghan Markle has obviously announced that there's a new baby on the way, and we've seen the obvious press attacks on her, as always seems to be the case with Meghan Markle. It's totally unfair. I just noticed, we talked about this briefly last week. We had the Weetabix with baked beans social media image, which we might have all seen, but I actually saw a report 2 days ago where that image alone increased Weetabix sales by 15%. And something a little bit more local, particularly to Jonny, I just noticed there's a new Italian opening just around the corner from you called Terzo, which is an Italian restaurant. Apparently it means something to do with free or third or so on, but we'll see what happens with that. That's in the old Angersol unit. So totally breaking news there. And I totally miss Angersol as well, which is gutting that it's gone. So what are we going to be discussing today? We've got lots of talking points. Just to give you a sort of a round robin of what we'll be talking about today, so you can continue watching. We're talking about the potential Oxford Road traffic closure, the 22nd of February Boris Announcements predictions. We're talking about the term Mumpreneurs. We're talking about Anthea Turner and what she said online this week. The Stretford Wall of Fame. We're talking about Lil Uzi Vert. Some of the Instagram changes, political content on social media, and Heinz Marketing. So that's what you've got to look forward to today, guys. It's going to be a fun-packed show. So let's start off. We're going to start with Jonny first, and I think it's an obvious one, which you're talking about. What have you seen on social, which has stood out for you?
Well, I guess it's been fairly controversial. I've had a few meetings sort of about it yesterday. My day was kind of monopolised by people catching up with us. It relates to the new planter and the Green Party initiative, basically, where they are looking to pedestrianise town centres, and this is across the country. I think the test bed is London, which obviously has quite a good infrastructure as far as the underground, etc. And they have a fund now as the councils to spend on closing roads so that people can then have a more pedestrian and outside living spaces, so that we can all, cycle everywhere and not drive anywhere. I'm not sure how that's going to work with delivery, etc. But there was quite a controversial, I guess, post, which I think there's been quite a bit of debate about. There's been a post by, dare I say, Altrincham today. Sorry, Alex. And it's been kind of a split between the residents and the businesses. And my viewpoint was always that it's a community atmosphere. It's not us and them. It's everyone. None of the businesses would exist without the residents, and they're a massive part of why I have kept going. And what motivates me to come into work is to see the people when we're allowed. But yeah, I put possibly a couple of controversial points up, as did a few other members of the road. But it was the article, I think, in itself stated that everyone wants this development, and it's been somewhat challenged, I guess, by businesses and also residents. So they're talking about closing off the top part of the road so it's not a rat run, down by Wetherspoons. There's been some council impact in as far as they've isolated the residents' meeting and the business meetings and not really mixed us, because obviously why would we want to talk together? And yeah, so I liaised with a few of the residents where I had I would call it a heated debate. I have kind of a sarcastic undertone sometimes to some of my comments. But yeah, so is it going to work if all of the sort of town centres, again in Hale, if that was all pedestrianised? I think from my experience, especially with COVID, is the convenience of people driving by, picking up, deliveries wise has become a massive culture. And I don't think that's going away. I think the convenience factor is definitely going to be there. And I think it'll be good for Altrincham in effect, because I think a lot of the businesses will migrate over their offices from Manchester to the more residential side. So I see it being a positive in that sense, but I do question the initiative itself, and maybe the money could be better spent.
So, I mean, obviously, this is the first time you've really had your chance to have an opinion, and I noticed it was on the first time they obviously started talk of pedestrianising places was, I guess, and it's still pedestrianised because of COVID, but the Moss Lane example near Tesco's. And I've got various opinions. I'm not a driver, so I don't care whether cars drive or not from that perspective, but I do care how it impacts businesses. And I think it's an interesting one. And I think also the interesting way it came out was the interesting point for me. Smart marketing from the Green Party. And the way I see it is they get one resident on side that then sends a press release out. No disrespect, I'm not mentioning just David, we're talking press in general here. And the press don't have the time to go and speak to every single person on the street, whereas I think that would have happened 20 years ago. There would have been a local journalist who knocked on your door, Jonny, and asked for your opinion, and knocked on Haley's door. And I don't think that happens anymore. And then it ends in the big heated debate that we see now.
Yeah, the initial contact we had, and I gather the first people to hear about it, was the local cycling association for, I think it was like Hale and Bowden. And then eventually it fed through, and we were given these plans where this is going ahead. Planters are being dropped down, roads are not being resurfaced, pavements aren't being resurfaced. And we were a bit like, well, okay. There was a survey put out, I gather, to Trafford as a whole. Online, which I'm sure we all track Trafford's website diligently. I think it's high on our priority on a daily basis. So I unfortunately missed that one in my incompetence, I suppose. So then it got put to, that was the phase one, which sort of was Mosley, etc. And I think one of the roads over the other side of Altrincham near the golf course side. And yeah, we challenged it. They didn't close both roads because they were talking about closing the road outside our unit and also the top of Oxford Road. And our opinion was that maybe it could be a concern with bin collection deliveries to businesses, offices not getting their clients to the door, things like that.
So I think we don't want to dwell the whole episode on this because I'm sure we could, but I'm going to ask Kate a question actually relating to this, because there was, I saw something as well that there was going to be a one-way system around the Hale clock. And I guess that was similar again, in part of the same infrastructure examples of trying to make places more cycle friendly or more pedestrian friendly. Again, had you had a similar experience to Jonny in that the first thing you heard about it was in the press, or had you heard about that sort of plan in advance?
This is the first time I've heard about it. So, honestly, so doesn't that go to show? And I remember someone saying about how Hale would be pedestrianised, and I thought, what a lovely idea, like in my kind of, innocent mind, like what a lovely idea, you could just walk through Hale and there wouldn't be all the chaos that there can be, with all the ridiculous drivers and stuff like that. I'll just but I imagine that it's similar on Oxford Road. Like I know that cars whiz down there as well. I've seen that happen, but I don't know, I can see why it's like an attractive idea, but I think you're absolutely right, Jonny, what you were saying about how the convenience of being able to just park pretty much outside and just run in and get something. Like, where would they park? And it would it would cause carnage, I think. But yeah, I don't really know about the one-way system. I don't really see, I mean, obviously I use that area quite a bit, but I don't really see many problems with traffic. So I don't see why that would be necessary. So yeah.
So I think there's many sides to the fence. I'm going to go to Alex now, actually. So obviously you're into your health, your fitness. Should we be cycling and walking everywhere, or can we use cars?
It's that debate, isn't it? Because if you look at, you've got, let's say, 20 factors which cover health and wellness. You've got diet, you've got exercise, you've got going to bed on time, what you put in your body, how you interact with people, emotional well-being, so on and so forth. So it's sort of when you're saying, if I've got an array of those factors and then you look at cycling a little bit more, well, is changing one of those going to impact your entire wellness? So if you put it strictly down to health and wellness, maybe not. Maybe you should be looking at other things. But like Kate's just said, then it's sort of if it's not broke, don't fix it scenario. If there's not problem with traffic, then there's no need to continue. But I thought what was interesting from Jonny's point of view is the hairdressers commented locally who were just down the road, and they said there's going to be dire for us because we've got elderly clients who can't physically walk. They get dropped off right out. We help them out the car, we put them in. But it's that classic, rule number one, which is you're not going to please everyone, but it's a choice of who do you please, who don't you please, and everyone's going to be upset. But it's just one of them where I think it's miscommunication, and you need to think in the long term.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing, and I'm sure there's going to be WhatsApp messages going out around this when, as soon as this goes live, there will be lots of angry comments on there. But I think there's two different sides, and don't get too heated on this. I think I enjoy my running. I totally enjoyed running down around Old Trafford and Stretford when they had the cycle lanes there. I totally enjoyed that. But I don't want to just see it from my selfish point of view that I enjoy a run down there when people are going to have a 2-mile tailback. You've got to see both sides of the fence. So obviously the other thing which could cause heated debate is, what's your second thing, Jonny, which you've been thinking about? The
second one, well, ironically, it's a significant year for me. Unfortunately, I'm 21 again. On the 22nd of February, when they announced the latest and greatest, regulations and things and changes to what's going to happen. I'm sure everyone's completely clear on what will happen before it happens now, and we've all planned for it until they announce a completely different change and everything, our whole world's collapse again. But on the 22nd, I'm wondering what everyone else thinks will happen, what they feel about what would be the next step, and sort of the best step for the country and for the area kind of itself. I think they're saying it's 15 million people now have had the jab, which I think is great. I think the rollout of that has actually been quite impressive for the country, and I don't relish one Boris's hairdresser or his kind of the decisions he's had to make and the position he's in. But I don't know, I'd be interested to see what you guys think and what you would say would be the phasing of things.
Yeah, an interesting one. I think you said that the rollout of the jabs is one thing that they do seem to have got right. The one thing I say that they seem to have got right. So I'm going to start with Alex, because I guess the fitness and health side of things, I'm presuming is going to become before the hospitality. So is that the way you see it, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting looking at he's parading that he's going to get schools back first, under quite a lot of pressure to get schools back first, and being in a club which is predominantly kids and seeing the impacts and getting emails from the parents about what it's like homeschooling, the fact that they've got no structure, the fact that they've finished school by 10 o'clock, the fact that they've got nothing to do. Health and wellness, yeah, fitness is a big thing, but also the emotional stability of a lot of people and going out, seeing them. It's very different over a screen, whereas once you're in it. So it's a difficult one, because obviously, you know, none of us are Nostradamus. You're not going to be able to predict the future, but it's sort of, do you prioritize at the minute, prioritizing kids' education? But like we were talking about before, you know, you're not going to please everyone. If hairdressers are maybe delayed a little bit, they're going to say, oh, this isn't fair. Or if gyms, from my point of view, are delayed in a little bit, we're going to say this isn't fair, because everyone's got the stats to back up in their favor. But he's got to have a sort of a logical plan so that we don't keep going, you know, every quarter into another lockdown and not making any kind of progress.
Yeah, I think that's my big worry, that we put the schools back just a little bit too early, and we could be back to stage one again, because I think we saw the rates go up in September when obviously the schools went back. So obviously health and well-being, Kate, obviously I really want the bloody gyms open. So what's your priority?
Yeah, I to be honest, I think, I don't know whether anyone saw the MP Charles Walker, I think his name was. He had an interview this week, and it was shared quite a lot over social media, but it was not featured at all in any of the mainstream news. And I thought that the controversial opinion that he kind of put forward was right. You said that, you know, when the vaccine was rolled out, that's when we'll start to see the changes, and we're still in lockdown, even though, you know, all these people are being vaccinated. And, you know, the announcement about us not being able to plan summer holidays and taking away that kind of hope. I think everyone is kind of, I mean, I'll talk for myself, but from people I've spoken to, everyone's kind of getting to the end of the tether now with it. And I did read something yesterday that said Boris has said this will be our last lockdown. And to be honest, I think if it's not, then there's gonna be some big problems. And if you do get a chance to look at that interview with Charles Walker, I would definitely recommend it. It's a really controversial opinion, but he's the first one who's actually said he refuses to accept, and now this is controversial, not my opinion, not my words, just to say, that he refuses to accept that a death from COVID is any different than a death from cancer or heart disease or old age. And for me, the mental health side of it is just absolute huge. Like, they're completely ignoring, you know, all of these people who are struggling so much, and the pressure, and obviously we're going to talk about mums and stuff and work in a minute, but the pressure that's being put on parents, and particularly mothers, I have to say, to homeschool their children whilst having a full-time job is just absolutely ridiculous. So, you know, something has to change, and I think what Charles Walker has said this last week, people are really resonating with, and it is just really interesting to see that it's only been shared on social media, and it's not this kind of hugely controversial opinion that we usually would be, you know, amazing clickbait for BBC News or, you know, whatever, is not even been featured on there. So it's just interesting, isn't it? It starts making you question everything. So
definitely. And I think Jonny, obviously, hospitality, I know Sasha Lord has been beating the drum about it, but I guess that is going to be the last thing that opens, everyone's presuming. And I think we've just mentioned, all of us have mentioned health, mental health, and so on. We forget that, obviously, I hate to mention the word, somewhere like Wetherspoons, but sometimes somewhere like Wetherspoons is the only chance an old person gets to see someone else. And obviously, of Oxford Road Cafe, there's a huge social element to what goes on. So what's your best hope? What's your best hope for the announcement on the 22nd? What do you want to see?
Well, Today, I think the MEN announced or put an article up suggesting that a lot of the restaurant businesses, mainly the big chains, have suggested an eat out to help out again, which from my perspective was a catalyst to the sort of second wave. And I think it's just not a good idea, that side of it. I think it has to be a measured response. I've had customers over the period when we did reopen, and I won't say elderly, I will say of senior years, because I can't really comment on the 22nd onwards. But they were apologising, and they were saying, we feel like we're impinging upon kids, on people who aren't actually at that higher risk. I've got a niece and nephew, I've got elderly parents who are kind of either end of the scale, and it's interesting to see their perspective. As you say, Kate, the kind of one, you can't please everyone all the time, but also if we reopen everything all at once, I think the fitness side and the health side, Alex, is key. I think if they open hospitality all at once, I think it could be catastrophic, to be honest, if we're not going to have another lockdown. I would hope that they would phase it so that they would open elements of the gym side, elements of the fitness. I think the impact upon when I've seen my niece, she asked whether she can touch me or say hello, and that is so upsetting to see. And the mental side, as you say, Kate, is the key thing, I think. I've got staff members who've got children, and I feel for them now, because although we're opening shorter hours, so we're predominantly doing the weekends because it's viable to keep the brand going. But I do feel for them. I think it's so difficult. My sister runs a vet's practice, and they're an independent, and she's got 2 children now, maybe 3 with her husband. But it's so difficult to kind of just say this is the way we should go. I think they tried the different regional aspects so that different areas or postcodes were allowed to do certain things. That didn't work, because you could drive 10 minutes down the road and go for lunch and go for drinks and go out and everything, and you could be in Altrincham and be isolated, and everything's so serious. So I don't know. I would hope that. I think we're looking at kind of May, June. They're saying April, but I think hopefully by April they should be able to open the gyms. You don't need gyms anyway, Alex. You run everywhere. But I've got so many regulars who are, and similar to yourself, Kate, who are health conscious. Everyone has to be now. I think it's been more impacting upon, unfortunately, those who aren't as healthy. So I think that's the way they should push it. And then I think hospitality, hopefully they'll keep the VAT down. Sorry to go that way, but I think that's helped us. And then by the summer, I'm not really bothered about a summer holiday, because I lost 3 this year. Having not been away for 3 years, not bitter at all. Bali, I'm sure, is lovely. But yeah, I think it should just be a phased approach, and I think people need to be a bit more sympathetic, even though we've kind of lost the heart of the lockdown. And I think if you look at the roads on the weekends, it doesn't really seem like a lockdown.
Yeah, I was down in. I had a meeting, the second face-to-face meeting since March last year. And I had this meeting, it was down in Broadheath in Atlantic Street. And you forget how many factories and warehouses are actually still in business. I hadn't been down that area for a long time. It's like, this is normal. It's only really schools and hospitalities and gyms that are closed. Like, all these factories with hundreds and thousands of workers are still in. And it was absolutely crazy. So we can keep our fingers crossed. I think we've all got a different scenario, that we all obviously want certain sectors opening, and hopefully it's a realistic plan that won't end us up in lockdown. So we're going to change the tone a little bit. One thing I'm going to go around, actually, I'm going to go around the room, and we're just going to do a quick fire round on this one. One thing that I do each Friday on LinkedIn is share the positives of what has happened over the past 7 days. So it's all like, it might just be a small win, something really exciting's happened, like winning 5 new clients or whatever. But I just want to sort of change the tone a bit and go round the room and say, what is the best thing that has happened to you this week? Just like a short, quick fire round. So we'll start with Kate first of all. Best thing to happen to you in the last 7 days?
I've got it already. The sunshine. The sunshine has just been amazing. Like, honestly, it's put the biggest smile on my face, and the promise of spring is here. So just excited to get out of winter and into spring.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I went out running on yesterday, and I was like, "What? It's not -7."
Yeah.
It was amazing. So fantastic, Jonny. Quick fire round. What's your most positive to happen in the week?
Possibly a bipolar from my initial negativity to the post, but it's actually talking to the people that we had controversial kind of discussions with, and they've come in. We've had good discussions. We've heard each other's opinion. I think just the fact that the community is kind of coming together is the best thing for me. My parents having a jab, they now think they can go on holiday, but hey ho. But yeah, I think just the community coming together and the fact that everyone appreciates everyone else's business, and the independents are now coming through, and we're actually having a voice, thanks to yourself as well.
Definitely. So yeah, the lesson from that is face-to-face communication is sometimes better. As much as I love social media, sometimes a good chin wag, face-to-face, socially distanced, of course, is the better way to do it. And Alex, best positive from your week?
I think it's one of them where every now and again, when you get an email across your inbox or something and it just makes you smile, you have a bit of, you know, I am doing the right thing. And I don't know what it is about this week, but we've sort of had 2 or 3 mails coming in from parents saying, thanks so much for your efforts. Thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for keeping the kids engaged. Thanks for structure, routine. And you just sort of go about it as normal business. You know, you say, well, it's the business, it's what I'm doing. You've got to make sure that you're caring for everyone. But just that little acknowledgement, we've had about 3 of those this week. So that's a nice little positive.
It's a nice feedback. So again, we discussed this last week. If you are watching this broadcast and you absolutely love all the businesses that are on this broadcast, go and leave them a positive review on Facebook or Google, because it makes someone smile at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, the other thing that I've seen, so we've talked about our positives. The other thing that I saw this week, and probably Kate's best place to answer this one, it was actually, we have our Clubhouse discussion, which we've just started on the same lines of the social conversation. And one of the talking points from Victoria Bond from Space HR was she absolutely hates the phrase mumpreneur. And she also hates the phrase girl boss as well. And she hates that because she's a woman, she has to be a mumpreneur or a girl boss, rather than just a woman in business. So what are your thoughts on the word mumpreneur? Because I guess men in business aren't called dadpreneurs.
Oh yes, exactly one of my points I was going to make today. Yeah, so yeah, these 2 terms that you're discussing, I am both of these. So I have children, I'm a business owner, and I employ a team of people, but I am an entrepreneur and I am a boss. So I understand why people use them. You know, women sometimes wear them as a badge of honor because it's harder for us to be successful in these roles. And also it's really hard to be a parent and to run a business. But I really just feel that by using these terms, we're actually belittling ourselves. Like for me, girl boss sounds really mature, like a teenage girl. And mumpreneur sounds silly, just like almost jovial. So I feel like people are taken less seriously. And, you know, I have an image in my mind of a mumpreneur, like a woman who is supported by her husband, which is fine, by the way, and maybe turned her hobby into a business, almost like a side business. You know, what we're fighting for here is for women to be taken more seriously in business and as entrepreneurs. And I really don't think that this does us any favors. So, you know, like you said, if you're a director, call yourself a director. If you're an entrepreneur, call yourself an entrepreneur. If you're CEO, call yourself a CEO. And like I said, like you said, have you ever heard the phrase dadpreneur? It's meant to, you know, this is meant to celebrate, mumpreneur is meant to celebrate mums doing both, but I think it reduces both jobs down. You are a mum and you are an entrepreneur, and the 2 are very hard in their own right, but they're not related. And I just think more than anything, it drives a further wedge in between the male-female roles in business. So next time you interview a businessman, Alex, ask them, how do you manage it all? How do you run a business while juggling family life? I bet it's you know, be willing to bet it's not a question that they've been asked before. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't like the phrase at all. I mean, we brought that up about 2 years ago on LinkedIn, and it was like, even then we had 87 responses, because I still use this in our LinkedIn training. And all of the 87 responses were all women in business that absolutely hate the phrase. And I don't think we've moved on. I think it was kind of quaint and cute in maybe 2012, 13. but we've matured since that. We don't need to use that phrase anymore. So I definitely agree with that. So we're going to actually move on to Kate's point now. What stood out for you in social media in the past 7 days? You've got an interesting one.
Yeah, this is quite funny. So it's kind of quite comical, but the rapper Lil Uzi Vert, which he has had a $24 million pink diamond implanted in his head, like here. So I just wanted to know what you guys thought of that, because, you know, it's, you know, we might think it's crazy, but, you know, who are we to judge? So yeah, anyway, I just thought it's a good talking point.
I had to Google it when you mentioned it just before the show, because I've heard the name. Yeah. I'm more into my British artists like sort of Stormzy and Dave and all that kind of stuff. So I Googled this guy, I'd heard his name, and I just put diamond after it. It looks painful was my first thought.
Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy. But I think you know, I think it has definitely caused a stir. His excuse was that he was going to get it on a ring, but knowing his lifestyle, you know, the way he kind of often wakes up on friends' sofas and stuff like that, then he thought that one day he'll look down, it's going to be gone. So, you know, why not have it implanted in your head right there, you know? It's not, you know, it's not how I would choose to spend $24 million. I would definitely get a green one. But yeah, I think.
So, yeah, Alex, are you a fan?
Well, just from that, he's taken that literally of if you'd forget your head if it wasn't screwed onto. You know, he's done that literally. But I just think it's strange. But like you were saying about Weetabix before, I think it'd be interesting to see what his streaming goes up to in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
We're talking about it.
That's so
true.
I
would have never had a reason to mention him. I'm aware of who he is, you know, with it being sort of my sort of generation and everything, but would never have thought about mentioning him now if he didn't have a 24 million diamond put in his head. So
yeah, I just think as well, like the excessive wealth, you know, of people. And I just think, I mean, obviously, like I said, you know, we could definitely think of a million other ways to spend $24 million. I also thought, like, is he not making himself a real personal target here? You know, like people could break into his house and steal his jewelry, but if you want to steal that, you're going to have to take him with it. So it's, yeah, quite
if
funny.
If he's sleeping on sofas, and, you know, I just worried maybe, I don't know how that could work out. That could be one hell of a hangover when they remove the diamond from his head. It probably, I think first on my list would maybe be the wrinkles and the hairline, never mind the diamond and the 24 million. Yeah, as you say, Alex, I fear it possibly could be a promotional side to it. But yeah, not on my list of to-dos. My 24 million definitely wouldn't be spent in that means.
I'm presuming he's got a single coming out in the next couple of weeks. That's usually the case. It's usually a great PR stunt, like the old school, which some of us remember, Freddie Starr ate his hamster and all those kind of old PR scams. But no, definitely interesting. And I think this is the world we live in, where people have to do outrageous things just to get noticed. So
I thought the wall would do it, and the jumper and things, but maybe I should have gone all out and put boxes everywhere and some diamonds on my head.
Tattooed it on your head. That would be
yeah, exactly. Diamonds here, it's here.
It's your birthday treat for Monday, Jonny. You perhaps can go down to Randall's and get them to implant it. So what else stood out, Kate? What else was your interesting thing that you saw?
Yeah, the other thing was I read that Instagram is experimenting with removing the option to add feed posts to stories. So for me, I don't like the idea personally. For me, I was thinking actually more about the BLM movement and how pivotal social media was with that and is with that. And as a white person, you know, wanting to share anti-racist advice that I found helpful, I'm not the right person to create that kind of content. But it's important it gets shared, especially by white people, and also following on from that, not just advice, the awareness. And the fact that we all became aware of amplifying Black voices with that, sharing Black-owned businesses, stories, you know, is a huge engagement, more so than my feed. And also a lot of people see those, but, you know, they don't necessarily comment, but loads of people see it still. So it just allows you to quickly share content from diverse sources and to amplify those marginalized communities. So I think for me, that's what kind of stood out to me when I read that, about that it might be being taken away. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because obviously this is my field of social media, so I was aware this was potentially being tested and it's happening and so on. I have mixed thoughts. Yeah, I agree with everything you've just said about being able to amplify important messages and for the shareability in terms of your customers as well, being able to share. I know I shared, I can't remember what post it was, but I shared one of your posts a couple of days ago in one of your new offerings. It was a salad bar which was shared, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I shared that, and I know for Alex, it's been really helpful. You've done a lot of things over the past couple of months. You did obviously the Christmas local gift guide, and you did the walks around Altrincham guide as well. And I guess stories played a huge part in that and sharing other people's content. So do you feel, from your perspective, well, both everyone's perspective, I guess, is it going to damage your business if that became the norm?
Interesting. I mean, I think from Snapchat is stories, you know, so you're talking one-on-one, but it's stories. So I think the behavior was already well ingrained into people. So going on Instagram, it wasn't like you had to navigate something new. It was really easy to navigate. And I think just the last 3 businesses or the last 3 personal pages that I have followed came across them in stories, you know. And if you don't want to have to, if you're following 400 people on Instagram, there's a marginal chance you're going to come across a story feed. Whereas if you're going on stories, you know, it's a lot easier to navigate through and pick up on little things. But yeah, I think the shareability and accessing loads of different accounts, I think it's a positive. I wouldn't be for if they shut down sharing feed posts and stories.
Yeah, one, like Kate said, like the discoverability of hearing things. We trained a business last year. It's the start of lockdown. We trained a cleaning business in Widnes, and everything they do marketing wise on Instagram, it's like 99% stories and 1% feed. And they built their audience from like just over 1,000 to nearly 5,000 from innovative use of stories. So I think for a lot of businesses out there and the way that people use it, and particularly younger people, teenagers, they will be heavily in the stories and hardly in the feed. And I guess Jonny as well, you've just launched the Oxford Road Diner. And obviously that, a lot of that was people sharing those updates into stories.
Exactly. We did a post yesterday to promote a competition, and I am a fairly substantial Luddite, I guess. I need to go on another course with your good self, Alex. I think it was a while ago, and things have changed since then. And I'd love to get your insight in as far as our Instagram, because I'm dipping my toe now. I'm getting there. I think it's just the impact we've had from just one post. Of sharing things, getting the message out there, the social media side with, I guess, us launching a business within 4 weeks. It's the feedback we've had has been incredible, but the majority of that and the majority of the launch and promotional marketing has been through that element. I think as far as you're saying, Kate, with the message, with mums who have jobs, work their own businesses and entrepreneurs, and have children, to say that, give you guys a title, I kind of feel like that feeds through into the social media side. It belittles what you guys are doing. It's the same as everyone, if that makes sense, except you have a far tougher job, having seen my sister do it through her business. But with the Instagram side, Facebook changing, WhatsApp changing, I think it's going to be an interesting period, and I think it's something I definitely need to brush up on. But I see the impact it makes immediately within the business, immediately, and it's great to get that feedback and get that kind of contact point.
Yeah, I think that's the point. Like, we've all just echoed many of the same things, but I think sometimes we don't feel that the social media platforms listen to us. They make these changes without considering the user base, because obviously without the business owners on there, that they can't sell, they can't monetize it and sell advertising. So if they don't support us, why should we support them, I guess?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, fantastic. So I'm going to actually move on to Alex now, because it's kind of linked to your first point. Tell us about what you saw on social this week.
Yeah, it was Facebook making the decision to reduce the level of political posts that come across people's feeds. So initially they're going to trial it in it's Canada, Brazil and Indonesia. And it's in the feeds because they said this was actually quite an interesting one because they were listening to the users on this respect, where they said people didn't want it to be constant bickering and fighting because politics is so diverse. You know, number one thing in marketing, don't talk about politics because people have got so diverse opinions and it is divisive. And they said as well, they were going to look at not recommending certain groups when you go into the newsfeed, into the search bar, because they said, yeah, it's a political group. Even if it does spread hate, it's a political group. So there's not much we can do. Our hands are tied via the terms and conditions. So they were going to have a look at, it was, as I said before, Canada, Brazil, Indonesia first, have a look at the little intricacies and then work on rolling out in the US. So less negativity, more positivity.
No, it's an interesting one because Kate just mentioned in the Instagram story sharing, obviously, people sharing the Black Lives Matter sort of thing. I don't see that as political. I see that as just being a human being. But I mean, in terms of political stuff, I think we all see it on election time. So would you like to see less political content on Facebook, Kate, or keep it the same, or are you happy with the level of it?
I just think what you said, Alex, about it being bickering is just so true. It's embarrassing the way they just tear each other down. And it's the same, like the US as well is the same. Well, it has been the same with Donald Trump. But yeah, they can never kind of focus on what each other are doing right. And, you know, that's when it's so divisive, like you said, Alex. And I just think, oh, it's just draining. So yeah, for me, and I try not to engage too much with it anyway. I just kind of swipe past, because if I want to find out political, political parties' views and ideas, I'll go and actually do some of my own research and try and find a balanced agreement rather than trusting Facebook, because I just don't. And you know, obviously it was in the news as well, wasn't it, that they actually what their awareness they were getting on Facebook was like paid for, wasn't it? I can't remember what it's called. It's called something where the political parties had paid for their content to go into certain people's feeds, and that's just ridiculous. It's like it's just ridiculous what was being paid for, you know. Yeah. So
it was a whole Cambridge Analytica scandal when it took our data and all that side of things. Yeah. I think as a social media manager and trainer who spends his life on social media, I used to be a lot more political when I was younger. I mean, I grew up with like The Clash and Public Enemy and all the sort of political bands, and I've just got to the stage now where I do the odd political post. Jonny sees that probably on my Facebook, but I try and keep away from it as much as possible, just because it infuriates me. And you're never going to change someone's opinion. It's just going to be an echo chamber. I've never seen you post anything political, Jonny, on Facebook. So you just keep away from it.
As Kate said, I feel like they become more propaganda, I would say, with a lot of the political kind of parties, especially in America, where they seem to just run riot with what they post. I think finding your own source of information is definitely the way to go. I have avoided the political side, I guess, until this week with my topic, which caused some controversy, but hey ho. Maybe I learned a lesson there. But I don't know whether, as you say, Alex, whether it's a safeguarding, I guess, for Facebook with all of the bad press Mark Zuckerberg got in America, and he's test bedding it. Unfortunately, it's smaller conurbations, so he can then roll it out into America. But yeah, I don't heed much I see on the political side online, because I just think it's like the old adverts on TV. You know, you're about to see a political broadcast. Do I give it much credibility? Not until you see the other side of the story. It's definitely a kind of, this is my soapbox.
So do you think it's a good idea, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is looking at Facebook ads now. If you want to run paid Facebook ads, there's a little slider and you have to say whether it's political or not, so they can go and review it first. I mean, each to their own. I mean, if you're going to engage with it, great. But like Jonny and Kate were both saying before, go look at your own information, not just the first article that pops up.
Yeah, definitely.
Hale over the road she posted a picture of a Scotch egg, and it was blocked because it was doing incorrect and it wasn't acceptable. So I don't know who she offended there. Sorry, Alex, being a vegan, maybe it was the vegan party that challenged it. But yeah, I think an element of filtration and censorship is good. But yeah, I don't know. The political side's a dangerous avenue, I've found.
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of social media, particularly now, you want an escape, and most of my things are light-hearted content on my personal Facebook, just designed to make people smile and laugh. And I think we definitely need a bit more of that. And I think, yeah, if Facebook was a little bit less political, it would be a much better place. And the weird thing is, some of my friends are quite political because they're involved in music and they're all very left-wing. But what I actually interestingly find is they never talk about politics face to face. You just have a Facebook rant, and they're the most friendly people you see when you meet them in person. It's really bizarre. So we're going to move on to Alex's next point. What else did you see?
Oh, I think this one's my favorite one, which was, it sort of encapsulates the power of branding, which was that Heinz got loads of different people aged between 8 and 80 across 5 different continents. They didn't know it was Heinz, and they just slapped a piece of paper in front of them and said, draw a ketchup bottle. And everyone drew the iconic, glass, the bottleneck one. And it was phenomenal. Some even wrote Heinz on it. Some drew the iconic label as well that goes on it. Some drew the tomatoes that are on the Heinz label. And then Heinz took that, completely scraps all of their labels. I mean, it's a short-term campaign, but they've taken off all their labels and they've put people's drawings on the front of the labels, as if to say, we don't even need to shout about the fact that we're Heinz. You know where to come if you want to catch up. But I just thought that just encapsulated the power of branding. And it was Canada Craft Heinz who did it. And it was, they said it was to understand the intrinsical and intuitive association of ketchup with Heinz. And I thought branding was just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is a masterstroke. So again, I looked at this, and it is, you think of ketchup and you think of Heinz. It's like synonymous with everything. And I guess as business owners, I think I've been hearing this for a long time. We're going to voice activated technology. So in the future, if you're not synonymous with exactly what you offer, you might not be found on Google or the voice-activated technology. So if we just say healthy eating near Altrincham, obviously we're going to expect the garden to come up, or burgers, Altrincham, and we can expect Oxford Road Diner to come up, and karate and Hale. What do you think of what Heinz have done? Do you think that that's really powerful branding? Have you seen the campaign yourselves, guys?
I've not seen it.
I've not seen it, but one day, Kate, you and I, we'll just have boxes with, you could just have a green box, maybe go with the green diamond on your head. And I can go with just a sort of icon of some outline of a burger and some breakfast, and that would do it for us. But if only.
Yeah.
But branding definitely is key. I think, Kate, your brand is incredibly strong. I think your produce is very good. I know some of the people who work within your business and things. And similarly with the evening, I focus more on the branding side, and it's aside from the wall. Sorry, it's a plug. But the branding on the evening was one of our focuses, and it has helped. I think it's incredible, the impact. To be ketchup or Coca-Cola, Warren Buffett style. Hey ho, one day.
Yeah, I think it is brilliant. It's brilliant branding, but it's also just reminded me of growing up. I thought vacuum cleaners were called Hoovers, but they're not. So, and it's the same thing, isn't it? It's that brand. So yeah, it's brilliant. It's great. It's not something that I don't know whether it would be pulled off with a small cafe in a small village, but
So just out of interest, I mean, Alex has just mentioned something relating to marketing. I know probably you'll spend a lot of time on business development and sort of looking at your business. Do you spend huge amounts of time looking at what other brands are doing marketing-wise, or did you just chance upon this Heinz story?
It was on LinkedIn, and you probably know I barely spent any time on LinkedIn. I just there because I happened to have an account, and it came up in the feed, and I thought, wow, that's amazing. But like you were saying, I think looking at it with a little bit more business acumen, it's like you say, when you go to voice technology, it's the difference of I want a burger versus someone thinking of a burger and associating it with a shop, and then you're coming up as the first person. But I think it's it's a long-term strategy, which is why it's so difficult for a lot of people to implement, but it requires a lot of marketing spend behind it, where you can't look at it and say, right, I'm going to spend a tenner on this ad and I know I'm going to get this much back. It's not, it's almost like you're tossing it to one side and not even thinking about it, because you're spending the money, but it's not direct sales. You're not expecting anything back. You're just thinking, right, longevity, think about getting it out there in the community and establishing myself in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, Jonny, you've just mentioned obviously how important branding was in terms of doing a diner. I just want to go on to Kate as well. You've got a really strong brand in terms of what you're doing in terms of the garden. I mean, did you come from a marketing background, or was this just something you fell into and realised it's so important?
Yeah, I did marketing at uni, and when I look back at it now, I think when I first started the garden, I would never have related anything that I implemented from anything I learned, because social media really wasn't huge when I was at uni. It was, Facebook had just launched when I just started at uni, and it was miles away from what it is now. And so we really didn't learn about social media in any of this marketing that I learned about. So yeah, I must have learned something. But yeah, I think a huge part of our well, in fact, I think our only marketing is through social media, just because we launched at the perfect time when everyone was posting photos of their food, you know, when they went out, and we got a really good, and it was when there was no such thing as algorithms, which was brilliant because everyone got to see what we were offering. So yeah, we were really lucky in that. But branding wise, I don't really know how it came together. It was just a really good kind of coupling of people and ideas, and it was just kind of felt like it was just perfect synchronization. So yeah, it's felt quite easy, to be honest. Yeah,
I think you've done a great job with your branding, and I don't know whether you've got the HR department, the marketing department, and the accounting department that we all have now. As independents,
all these hats that I've got to put.
Yeah, exactly. But it's definitely come through. And as you say, when I did a business degree, and when you're sat there, you don't really see the application, but we must have gleaned something. I hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, branding has come through. I think the social media side with it is. I spent a lot of time, countless hours late at night, picking out different colours for different things for the evening, and to try and catch up, I guess, from our organic growth of the business. But I don't know whether you feel it the same, Kate, but we spend a lot of our time probably spinning plates so much that the sort of social media and the branding side now has kind of taken more of a chunk of the time, but it's so rewarding when you do it right.
Yeah.
With the karate side, I mean, I don't know how you find it in promoting the business. Obviously, you're getting fantastic feedback. You're having an incredibly tough time because you can't have groups together. I don't know how you find it and how you've changed or adapted to it. Alex, have you?
I think rather than thinking of people kicking each other in the head, that's something which we really wanted to get away from, which was this, all it is you come in, you smack each other about, and then you leave. We wanted it to be a community, and so one of the things in terms of the branding, which we tried to switch, was we put on quiz nights, family quiz nights every Saturday, again, free for all the members. When in March, when things were a little bit more uncertain, we suspended fees, but kept the lessons going again. So it's sort of just trying to build up that community asset. But it's like you say, it can't be pivoted overnight in 2 months. It takes a long time, repetitive action, but you just crack on.
Definitely. I think the thing about all of us here is we're all still here after lockdown. We've all still got businesses and we've all got really strong brands. So, I mean, lots of us have been around for years. I know that Alex said 8 years before that the sort of Hale Karate Club's been around for. Jonny was in Altrincham pre the market revival. So he's a long-standing business. And obviously Kate's been around for, I don't know, how many years is it? 6 years you've been around?
6 years, yeah, 6 years.
6 years, and you look at all the healthy eating businesses that have come and gone in that time, and you're all still here. So we all must be doing something right. So it's great that obviously we're all still visible. So we're nearly at the end of the show. We're just going to go through a couple of quick fire rounds just before we finish. we're actually going to start. We've got 2 questions now, and I just want an either or answer on one of these. So Anthea Turner, we said we'll talk about that at the start. She shared a cartoon of an overweight person in a wheelchair shouting at a person to put their mask on to protect their health. I don't know if you all saw that image, but do you think, just a quick either or answer, was it stupidity or ignorance, or is she playing a very careful media game to get more talk shows, radio appearances in reality TV? So I'll start with Kate as a healthy person here.
Yeah, I just think totally attention seeking. When did you last hear about what Anthea Turner's doing? Do you know what I mean? So if you've got a celebrity status like she does, surely you're fully aware of what you share and how it's going to be received. So I just think she's just trying to be controversial, you know, and how bad is it that you have to resort to that these days to get the media attention you want? So yeah.
I'm exactly the same. Z-list, Lawrence Fox. So, Alex, do you think the same? Was she just doing it for attention in the social media age?
Yeah, I mean, particularly with the celebrity look at me culture, you know, it's what can I do to be controversial? Again, Lil Uzi, we're talking about it. Like you say, she's probably going to get some press, so it's worked for her.
Jonny, you similar thoughts?
I think maybe she couldn't make it to Dubai with the other influencers. I don't know. Maybe she's not launched her latest DVD training video for Christmas, and possibly that's coming through. But I fear what will come next from her. But yeah, I don't know. The attention-seeking side is definitely is there. People have their own health issues. If people aren't wearing a mask, it's kind of, initially I was fearful of it. This second time, you've got to be sympathetic. There's reasons. You've got to just understand. And I think Anthea's, the bandwagon that she's probably jumped on there is slightly misjointed. I wouldn't want to be her agent, but yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a full house for attention seeking. Look out for on a talk radio show or a reality TV show on a farm or the Big Brother house in next year. So last little fun little question to end up. I ran down to it on yesterday when I could run eventually. As I said, it wasn't -7. I ran down to Stretford and back yesterday, and I saw, I don't know if you've seen it on social media, I shared it yesterday, the Stretford Wall of Fame. Now, it's a wall of fame celebrating all the people that have a connection to Stretford, which features Alan Carr, it features the Bee Gees, it features Mr. Scrubb and various other people. I think there's about 12 faces on it in total. So a quick fun question to end, and a warning, we're going to start with you, Jonny, first of all. If we had an Altrincham Wall of Fame, who would be on the Altrincham Wall of Fame?
Oh boy. Obviously Graham Brady, so I can, maybe get a foot in the door and not send any more emails or letters. Altrincham Wall of Fame, let me think.
Johnny Hanson.
I'm not sure how that image was come across. I like your posts, Alex, about sort of old businesses, the chippies, the kind of traditional environment that Altrincham I remember Wimpy, dare I say it, the big brands. But as far as the face, oh God, that's so difficult. Why did you put me first?
Yeah, it's an interesting. I'll give you a clue. I didn't know this until yesterday, or a couple of days ago. One of the girls in what's it called? One of the girls in Sound of Music was born in Altrincham. I've never seen The Sound of Music, but apparently she was from Altrincham. So that's an interesting one that most people didn't know.
The Sound of Music is a late and great, one of my favourites. I still come along to it in the kitchen. I think you've got Morrissey, you've got Roy Keane, who, although isn't overly friendly, I did see him on a walk. Offered his dog a sausage, and he said, "Well, of course he'll have a sausage." Like, sorry about that, my bad. So I didn't mean to offend you. I'm trying to think who else we've got.
We could just have an angry Wall of Fame where we do have Morrissey and Roy Keane just repeated on the whole wall.
Oh, that'd be cooler, wouldn't it? Just people throwing. I think it was Morrissey a can thrown at him, and he cancelled the whole festival, the whole event. And Roy Keane is equally as friendly and warm at times.
We are a friendly town. Anyone who's watching this outside, we don't just have angry people here. So we'll come back to you, Jonny. Anyone else, Kate or Alex?
I think Phoebe Dynevor from Bridgerton.
Yes,
Yes.
that would be a great one. And
She's one of
obviously,
our customers.
yeah, so she's Sally from Corrie is the daughter, which when we posted that, most people didn't know she like the key star of Bridgerton was from Altrincham.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one. We'll stick with that. So if you're listening, Trafford Council, if we're having a wall of fame for Altrincham, Phoebe Bridgerton, well, Phoebe Divener from Bridgerton is going to be on our wall of fame. Alex, who would you pick?
Yeah, and this was such a difficult one because, you know, being quite a little bit younger, you sort of don't know the big plethora of people who have been coming through Altrincham. So I had to do a little bit of Googling. And the ones that you never sort of stop hearing about is the Ian Brown and John Squire from the Stone Roses. You know, the school always says, listen, they were made here, they were made in Alti you know, sort of thing. But another one which really sort of stuck out for me was that Alan Turing resided in Hale for a bit on Nursery Avenue. Yeah. So when he was working at the uni, he was residing in Hale, so he was going to and from, and they've got a plaque there above the house, which is, I thought that was quite cool. But again, upon a little bit further research, you know, when you look at all the great stuff which has happened, people who didn't have press, like there was 2 people from Alti who received the Victoria Cross, which you never would have thought about. But so just some things that maybe sometimes go unnoticed that the town really strives for, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was Bill Speakman was one of them. So definitely featuring Bill Speakman as there. So we've got quite a wide variety of names there.
Big Dave. Big Dave with the trolley collecting around the market area.
Yeah, Market Dave.
Everyone mentions Market Dave.
But he is Market Dave, yeah, an absolute legend of the time.
Fantastic. So we've got through quite a bit today, guys. So obviously we've discussed so much today. We've discussed everything from literally Oxford Road to Walls of Fame to Anthea Turner to Lil Uzi Vert. We've got through quite a lot today. So again, thanks for joining us, Kate, Alex, and Jonny. Really round of applause for you. Really appreciate it. If you have watched this, do comment on what you've seen. Do tell us what you've seen on social media yourself this week, and join us next Tuesday for Altrincham HQ's A Social Conversation, where we'll be joined by 3 different guests discussing very, very different subject matters. And it's just a fun show to be. So thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving us
I
the
will
chance.
see you all soon. And thanks a lot, Jonny. We'll see you all soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.